Well, so far, the Ukraine crisis has pitted Russia against the United States. But now NATO, the military alliance, may have an important role to play. It has 28 member nations. That's the United States plus its partners in Europe, many of them living in the shadow of Russia. 3 of them, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, are former Soviet states. Poland shares a border with Russia, territory on the Baltic Sea. It called an emergency NATO meeting over the crisis. Ukraine is not a member of NATO, but a partner nation, so it's unclear what NATO would do if Russia moved forces out of Crimea and into eastern Ukraine. I'm joined now by Emanuel Karagiannis, who is a senior lecturer at King's College in London. London. Thank you so much, Emanuel, for being with us here on the show. Now, if this escalates any further, what's the next move? Are we likely to see NATO move on Russian forces?
I think it's highly unlikely that NATO will intervene in any way in Ukraine. This is because, first of all, there is still a window for diplomacy. Secondly, I think NATO countries understand that what's at stake is not just the situation in Ukraine, but it's basically world peace, global security. So I doubt if NATO really finds a proper way to intervene. I think it's more likely NATO to declare its solidarity towards the Ukrainian government, but nothing more than just a symbolic gesture towards the Ukrainian government.
Look, we've been hearing from the Western and from the EU side of it, and they tend to paint Russia as the big bad neighbor to Ukraine. Is this justified? Does Russia have the justification to protect its own interests by acting aggressively as it has?
You know, in that part of the world, in the former Soviet Union, history and geography really matter a lot. Russia is a country that has been invaded many, many times by neighboring countries. So that means that the country is suffering from what I call structural insecurity. So when it comes to the political orientation of neighboring countries, the Russian political elite, the Kremlin, is really careful and really, how can I put it? I mean, they really care about the political orientation of their neighboring countries. So in plain English, a pro-Western Ukraine is basically a geopolitical nightmare for the Kremlin.
In what way? How so?
That will basically increase insecurity. I mean, to have NATO there, to have a pro-Western Ukraine with no links to Russia. And you have to understand that from the Russian perspective, Ukraine is not just another neighboring country. Ukraine is considered to be by many Russian nationalists as the cradle of the Russian history, Russian culture. But there is something else there. And this has to do not with Ukraine itself, but it has to do with Kosovo and the NATO intervention in Kosovo.
Can I just ask you, just put a theory to you, but could Putin's aggression in any way be perhaps linked to his own fear that, you know, the peaceful protest movement that's happened in Ukraine could actually happen in Russia as well, and that's why he's acting this aggressively?
Yeah, I mean, probably there are 2 levels of analysis there. So the first level has to do with domestic developments in Russia. And you remember probably what happened in 2012 when Putin was re-elected. There were some serious protests against Putin. So, of course, he wants to give now the message that this will not be tolerated domestically. But again, there is something else, and this has to do with Kosovo. And I will insist on this, because Kosovo, what happened in Kosovo in 1999 when NATO intervened, and in 2008 when Kosovo was recognized as an independent state, those 2 developments basically broke a long-standing taboo, post-war taboo about the existing borders in Europe. So from the Russian perspective, Kosovo is both an opportunity and a warning. It's an opportunity now because Crimea can become the Kosovo of the Black Sea, so they can follow the example of Kosovo, but also it's a warning because at that moment, when NATO intervened in Kosovo, Russia was ignored by Western countries. So to me, it's just like a payback time now.
Right, and that's why it's acting aggressively.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming in and talking to us. Emanuel Karagiannis, the senior lecturer at King's College, Doha.